Hey guys, what's up? This is my 1980 Suzuki FS50. Picked it up on the side of the road. Figured I'd bring it back here to the shop and see if we can get it running. So all I know of it for now is that it is missing a coil, missing all the fenders. I have the dashboard in the truck. It does have a key and it does kick over real nice. Other than that, I haven't really looked into it. I do have a coil. We'll put it in, see if we can get spark, and see if she just lights right off. Alright guys, got you in a little closer here. Got my new used coil pack out of the Horde. And we're going to put a little connector on here, toss that coil pack on there, and see what we can figure out. See if we can get a little bit of spark out of the old girl. Just put that on there. Give her a good little crimp. And it should be good to go. Sorry about all the background noise. I picked this up last night and went and picked up a little bit of firewood and never even unloaded it out of the truck. I figured might as well just see if we can get her running right here in the bed of the truck. This coil is actually a hair too big. It's actually out of an old Honda 3-wheeler, but I believe they're set up almost exactly the same. It's just a one-wire Japanese style coil. So, should be able to tighten this thing down. And make sure it's going to fire up before we decide to put a whole bunch of money into it and get it going. Alright, is that? Actually, I was able to talk to the gentleman that was getting rid of it, and he said that it was running, and then the coil pack went bad as far as he knows. Now I do have the old coil pack, and the main power wire going into it is pretty beat up. So this might be as simple as just tossing this other coil pack in it, firing it up, but we'll pull this out and at least make sure it's running. Spark. She is looking a little dirty, but I think for the interest of the video here, I think that'll do just fine. This stuck in there. Move you guys down so you can see and let me know if it's got some spark. It looks like it has some pretty good consistent sparks, so I'm gonna put it all back together. It does look like there's some fuel in it. He did say that it was pre-mixed. This machine would have originally had a mixer, but it has been taken off. Fuel smells pretty good, so we'll give her a couple kicks. See if it'll take off on its own. If not, we may have to pull the carburetor off and give her a good cleaning. Put some fresher fuel in it. Alright, got the plug tightened up in there. Let's get this boot back on. There we go. And I'll bring you over this way a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Let's see if it fires up. No, it does need a choke cable, so he's got this little thing set up down here. We have to do a little bit of carb cleaning, make sure it's getting fuel and all that. And yeah, maybe what we'll do here is we'll take this air filter cover off right here. Just put a little bit of gas in it and see what we can do with that. Well, there's not a whole lot of air filter in there. So, now this is a 2-stroke, so we're not going to want to use a whole lot of slurring fluid or anything, but just one little snort, just enough to make sure it's going to fire, shouldn't hurt us any. Alright, we'll give it a little shoot there, and see what we get. There we go. I think she'll run. Probably not getting enough fuel to start up on its own, but a little bit of help. She fired right up. So, let me see how tight that is. Okay, I need to grab a tool. We'll get this air box off. We'll pull the fuel line off. Let's see if we got any fuel flow. It might be just as simple as the pet isn't letting fuel through. She's a little dirty. Could definitely use a little bit of cleaning. But I believe just in the interest of seeing if she's going to fire up, we'll clean off a little bit of the grime, that way it doesn't get into the carburetor itself. Let's see, this line here should be our fuel feed line. There's no fuel. Okay. So let's make sure we have the pet on the right direction. And we do. So, oh, there we go. Did not have it on the right direction. Alright, so now we got nice fuel flow. Now let's see. Let me sit there for a second and fill up the float bowl. Get a little bit of grime out of the end there so we can not suck it through the engine. There we go. Alright. Let's give her a little kick and see what happens. We're getting somewhere. Starting to sound a little better. Right, on this motor, you have to hold the brakes to get it to start. Firewood out of my way. Pull the choke again. Let's give her a little help choking it by hand. Kickstarter's sticking a little bit. Alright. Give it a little snort, just see if she's still not getting enough fuel. Okay. So, I think even though we've got fuel flow to the carburetor, which we do, I'm thinking either got a little bit of water in the gas, or our carburetor is just really junked up. So, take a minute and unhook a few things here. Get the throttle undone. Here, that thing's nice and clean. That honestly looks almost perfect. Let's get the fuel line off here. I shut the fuel off so she'll dribble a little bit more and that'll be done. All the oil line feeds are off, so all off through here is, I guess, clean up a little bit around this carburetor. It's really mucky. Try to do our best to keep as much of this mud and dirt and grime out of the engine. Alright, I'm going to go grab some tools and I will be right back. Alright, so I believe this is just going to be two 10mm wrenches, or two 10mm nuts, I'm sorry. And this is actually strange. On this side it's a bolt. So one side's got a nut, the other side has a bolt through the other side of it. But either way, we'll get her taken off here. We do not have a rebuild kit for this, so we're going to have to be gentle on all the gaskets and everything. A little bit long-winded. All these bolts are out. We'll take a minute and get them all nice and cleaned up. That way they go back in nice and smooth. There we go. I got it now. And there's a little bolt from that side. This one's got a little nut right here. Take that off. This has a vacuum reference PET. So when this line right here sees vacuum, it actually opens up the PET. That way, whenever it's off, you don't just keep flowing if the needle valve or the float in here or anything like that gets stuck. Alright, so off camera I took a little bit of time and cleaned a little bit of dirt out. Actually missed a little bit there. But other than that, she's actually should be pretty well cleaned up now. On the outside. On the inside's a different story. Bowl off here first. And we'll see how bad it is inside. There's a chance that it got water in it. I don't know how well it was stored before I got it, how long it sat outside. I really don't know any of the history on it. So there's a chance that the bowl's full of water. There's a chance that the whole tank's full of water. the gas smell. Smells wet, good, but the gas will still smell good even with water underneath of it. Okay, so if you look in here, you can see like the different bubbles and stuff like that. Let me grab a light, see if maybe that can help you see a little bit better without washing you out. Okay, see all the this coloring and stuff like that, and then if you look way down in there, see if I can get it to focus, those bubbles, that's just straight water down in the bottom. So, and actually it's mixed up, so I think the bulk of that might actually be water. So that would explain why it won't run. So we will clean that out and we will drain the tank. It was actually really clean. A little bit of grime in the bottom, but nothing bad. The floats and the jets all look really good. Everything looks really clean. Floats don't have any weird coloring on them, don't look like they're swollen or holding fluids or anything. So this pin seems to be nice and loose too, so that's not all gummed up. Pull that pin out there. We'll take the floats off, or the float off. And there's your needle, which that all looks really clean. Now, this right here is where the fuel comes in. This is your main jet and then your idle jet. They look clean enough, but we'll pull them out, give them a good cleaning, make sure we can see through them. So there's your idle. I don't know if there's a way I can show you this without blinding you. If you look through there, you can see a little white dot in the center. That means she's clear. There's no blockage in there. So that's excellent. Let's get this main jet out. And that is a bunch of the same news. Trying to get this where it doesn't blind you, see? It's wide open. So, that's great news. Let's see, I'm not sure. There's a tube in the center here. You can see the brass down in here. That's the emulsion tube. Helps atomize everything. And that looks like it'll come right out, so we can clean that job too. And there it is right there. I'll gently pull that out. It actually only gets stuck at the top. Once you pull it down a little bit, it comes right out. Now remember, this section here, switch in focus, this section here sticks out. That's the part that goes up in the carburetor. It's very hard to see, but there's, oh, right there, you can see it this way. There's a hole down in the center, and this here comes up through, and that's these little holes here help with the fuel. Everything there looks nice and clean. Give it a good spray down anyway, just to be safe. The nice thing is you take your can here, you plug the end, and you can actually get it to spray out all the holes. Same with this one. Use your finger. You can get to spray out all the holes, and that should be clean enough to run. Now, that's basically it for down here, other than our needle valve or needle and, well, the seat for the needle and seat, and your little clip. Let's see if we can get this piece out. Yep. And there's actually an O-ring on here. That O-ring looks to be, sorry, that O-ring here can barely feel it. So we're actually going to need to replace that. But where that sits inside is nice and clean. So that's beautiful. Now, this is our enrichment circuit, which is basically a choke. Take this out. That's all that is. A little bit of grime in there, actually. Good thing we took that apart to clean it. But this is somebody's makeshift choke lever. But the little choke button, pull tab, whatever you have on your bike, it's basically the same thing, just longer. You pull it, and it pulls it out, and it lets more fuel in. That helps it start better in the cold and whatnot. Now this is the idle speed screw. That one we're going to leave alone. I don't think that we need to take that out. But this here is the idle air adjustment screw. So what we're going to do here is we're going to run it in first, counting the turns. So here's, well, actually, somebody had it fully tightened, so that's not good. Somebody's probably been having some carburetor issues with this. So, probably a good thing we're taking it apart and cleaning it. Actually, it feels like the threads are a little gummed up in there too. So we'll put a better screwdriver in there now that we can get to it. That way we're not screwing anything up. And that's that. That's your idle screw, or your idle air screw. Now this here, this is just something somebody did. This would be where the oil injection line hooked up when the original oil injection system was set up in this machine. Now they have since bypassed that, so now instead of the bike mixing itself while it's running, you just have to mix it, mix it in your gas can, kind of like an old weed eater or something like that, and just fill up one tank and leave the other one alone. So I am probably going to put this in the ultrasonic cleaner. So give me a little bit here. Let me get all these parts in there, let her soak for a little while, and I'll bring it back when I go to put it all back together. Alright guys, got everything cleaned up, sprayed everything off. Now I put that Berryman Chem Tool, you buy it in a gallon jug, or a gallon, like a paint can. That's what I use in my cleaner. But once you're done with that, you definitely want to go through and clean off as much as you can. It gets slimy and just holds dirt, and all around not that great. But anyway, so it cleaned up pretty good. A little bit of dirt on it, stuff like that, no big deal. So now we can start putting it back together. Now I took, carb cleaner, stuff like that. I just went through. I'll do it again real quick. Through all the orifices, just make sure everything's out of it, everything free flowing. Goes through it real well. Now we can start putting the jets back in. We'll put our idle jet back in here. Now we got to remember to put our emulsion tube in first. And we'll go up in there. You know what, I better make sure that there's not a... Some of these have a little groove on them. This one does not. Make sure we have it centered very well. And that should just kind of pop back into place here. Like that. And then we'll put the main jet in, and the main jet will hold it into place. There's our screwdriver. And as for that, we can put our idle mixer screw in here. Now this, since we weren't able to count the turns because somebody had it all the way tight, we will just, basic Almost all carburetors, a good rule of thumb is you start about a turn to a turn and a half out, and then you can tune it from there. So we'll go till it stops. You don't want to over tighten it, but that's stopped. So we're half, 1.5. That'll be good for that. Now we can put the choke back together. Now, being that it's set up like this, it's not going to have any real pressure on it, but usually this cable is going to be a lot tighter because you've got a cable connected to a bunch of controls and stuff like that to keep it all tight. So we'll just kind of set it up so it's pulled tight, pulled in there so the cable's in it, and we'll just slide it in here like this, and we'll just tighten it up just like that. Alright, and now we've got to do the O-ring on there, and this, all I get is this kit. I got this one from Harbor Freight. You can get them off Amazon or wherever, and it just has any O-ring you could pretty much ever want. So we'll just pull this one off of here. Now this kit is metric, but I also have a standard one, so I think this O-ring here might get us done pretty well. Get that rolled into place. Actually, that one's going to be too thick. Let's see if we can find a thinner one. So I might have to grab the other set. Hang on. Alright. Now, it's like the metric set, even though this is Japanese, it's not going to work. So let's see if we can find one that will fit in this set. Oh, it looks a little bit better. A little thinner, but heavier than the old one. Alright, so I'm going to put just a hair of like a silicone type of spray on here. Basically anything that will lube this up a little bit so it slides in better will be fine. Especially being a two-stroke, a little bit of oil would never hurt. But silicone spray is really good for rubber. Doesn't damage it by any means. Let's see if we can work this down in here. We might actually. There we go. Nope. We cut it. See? That's what you have to be careful of if you have too big of an O-ring in there. See how we cut that? So we're going to actually have to get a smaller O-ring that won't cut when we put it on. So. Try this one. There, that's better. See how that fits in there real nice? That's perfect. And there's actually probably enough spray on here already and on my fingers, so we can just put this in here. There we go. And see, no signs of tearing or anything like that. So we'll put our clip on and our screw. And there we go. That is the whole bottom done except for the float. Now we have to make sure that this little pin here moves, and it does. So we'll hook that onto the float. Put that back in here. And we'll put our pin through. And there you go. Get a little bit of spring, and that should be just about it. Well, we can put our bottom on. Got pretty much all the grime and stuff out of there, cleaned up really good. Now this little indentation here goes around this, holds the pin in. And then this little thing goes in there. And there. And that's your overflow, I believe. No. I'm sorry. That is the enrichment circuit. Just push that in there. Put our screws back in. And she should be pretty well ready to run. Now all we have to do is snug these up, and then we're going to drain the fuel. Make sure, because that's now that we've seen water in here, even though the fuel doesn't smell too bad, it doesn't smell brand new, but it smells like it should run fine. But you know, the smell of fuel is way stronger than the smell of water, so you will always smell that first. So we'll drain that and we'll see if there's actually water in it or if it was just a little bit at the bottom that ended up in the carburetor. But that's it. Nice rebuilt. Choke moves nice and free. I'm sorry, not rebuilt. Just cleaned up real good. And I will get you set up so we can see what the fuel looks like, and then we'll get this put on and see what happens. Alright, so we got you set back up here in the truck. Now I'm just going to use like a white bowl like this. I like to use either clear or white. Makes it easier to see what's actually coming out. And this one's a little big, but we should still be able to kind of see what's going on and see what comes out. Yeah, I think there's... So you see what's coming out. Now, I believe, like the greenish color that you're seeing, that's going to be the oil from the mix. But the very hazy look that you see, I believe, is a mixture of old gas and water. Now, once we're done pouring this and can actually look at it and let it settle, we will probably see, you know, a definite discoloration, and we'll be able to see the gap between the water and the fuel. So I will bring you back once we're done and show you what I found. Alright, so this is the fuel I drained out. You can definitely tell it's off colored, but I do believe some of that would be the oil. But you can see that there's a very big color difference, you know, about in the middle there, but then you can see all of that big, the whole section over in here, that is all water. And water going straight to the bottom. Every time this thing sat, if the carburetor wasn't full of gas, it was going to get full of water, and you know, that's why the carburetor had a lot of water in it. So we will mix up some fresh fuel, carburetor back on, and we'll see, we'll give her another shot to fire up. Alright, so I got your fuel's all drained, everything's ready to go. We got our carburetor nice and cleaned up, the gasket looks good. So now we can just slide this in here. I believe you got to actually start this nut before you push it all the way on. And then we'll get this bolt started on the other side. Excuse me. And we'll just get everything tightened up here, and all lines hooked back up, and she should be ready to try. All right, get that tightened up. That one tightened up. And we'll hook the vacuum source line up. Now this PET has a prime spot, so you know, even without vacuum, we can turn it on to make sure that everything flows. I've not put the new fuel in it yet. I wanted to make sure this was all hooked up first and ready to go. moves as it should. And let's pour a little bit of this mixed gas in there. That should be plenty. See here, we'll just let this flush for a second. Just make sure that we got fresh fuel coming out. And we do. Okay, so we got fuel hooked up. Turn the fuel on. Let it sit for a minute here. Fill up the float bowl. There. Make sure we got some flow. Not really. There we go. Now there's flow. Okay. Let that sit for a minute. Now I mixed the gas a little heavy because I don't know how long it's been sitting. So if it smokes a little bit, smokes a little bit. We're not worried about that as long as it runs. It'll be a little bit better for it anyway to have a little bit more oil right now. Try a no choke. First kick. Maybe. Oops. It's idling pretty good. To tune it a little bit once it warms up a little bit. it. Not smoking too bad. This is the pet. I just have that on there to make it easier to turn because the knob's missing. But I think it sounds pretty good. Push works. Throttle. And there it is. Sounds good. Seems to run pretty good. Could use a little bit of tuning on the carburetor still, but I think all in all it'll be a fun little machine. I will bring you guys back probably in another video to we'll start working on the wiring. Get this piece put back on. This piece goes underneath. I have the little dashboard in my truck that has the speedometer and the key switch and stuff like that. It needs a choke cable. We might order one of those. I think this thing actually takes a battery, so if I can get my hands on one of those, I will put one of those in. We'll have to do a oil filter. I'm sorry, an air filter, and you know, start looking around, see if we can find some plastics. But I believe that this thing will be a runner, and let's get some kids on it, let them ride it around a little bit, and have some fun. All right, guys. With that, I am going to go. Have a good night. Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to take a moment and thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I apologize for some of the background noise, you know, a little bit of poor quality in the sound. Just trying to get started out here, trying to make a little bit of content for you. You know, me and my kids and my friends all kind of like to do this stuff, so we figured, you know, why not share it with you guys. There will definitely be more content in the future. Anything from, you know, actually the truck that this scooter is sitting in. We'll be doing some work on it, multiple cars, basically anything with an engine we'll be working on, doing some road trips, doing some off-roading and stuff like that. If you guys have any ideas, any requests, feel free to put them in the comments. Any suggestions, you know, anything you think I could do better, feel free to leave a comment. But if you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.